Coming up, a bar shooting in Parsons, Kansas leaves someone in the hospital alongside a man wanted for the crime.
Right in that freezing line, if not a little bit below it. Much cooler to start this week than the first week of March. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a La Harpe, Kansas woman is charged in the death of a baby boy.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bonk. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip. It's cold again.
Hey, but Tanya, I was actually thinking about it and going back and did a little historical look just from last week. Even some of those warm days when we first started our warm front, we still had temperatures like this in the morning. Big difference is going to be the lack of the sunshine and the warmth in the afternoon. That's our key factor. But this is similar to where we started out, kind of from Sunday to last Monday as well. It was as low as 25, whole bunch of 32s running from Miami down to Anderson and Cassville. Joplin right now sits at 31. Maybe won't be checking out the car there because if you parked a certain direction, especially from the south, you're going to have some frost that's going to be needed to be scraped before you take off. Wind chills right now, still a bunch of in the teens, haven't quite got to the 20s. That's just from the old sweeping radar, none of that actually hitting the ground. Seeing a little precipitation here, but that's on the east side of Branson along the Arkansas-Missouri state line. Mostly cloudy to start our Monday, and a weather trend that big difference is really going to be our peak heating hours, as we'll be stuck in the high 30s, low 40s today. A little sunshine coming out here as we get into the later morning and afternoon hours. Going to stay dry as well, picking up some needed rain there over the weekend. But Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, really no problems. Overnight lows are going to continue to dip back down below the freezing mark for the next 2 days. Then on 50, we begin a little jaunt up into the mid-50s Thursday, close to 60 degrees. And then, Tanya, we got a secondary cold front headed our way for Thursday into Friday.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Parsons, Kansas bar sees a shooting early Saturday morning. On Saturday, just before 2 in the morning, officers were called to the Somewhere Else bar, 2106 Crawford Avenue. One person was found shot and taken to Labette Health. David Lamont Young, III, is wanted for questioning in the incident. Young has ties to Parsons, Erie, the Crawford County area, Kansas City, and Topeka. Young was also reported to be in the company of Raymond Rigazio. If you have any information, you're urged to contact the Parsons Police Department. Authorities released the names of the people involved in a serious car crash in southwest Joplin. About 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, Joplin dispatch were alerted to a serious 2-vehicle crash near Love's along Coyote Drive. Joplin Fire and Police responded alongside Newton County Ambulance. 25-year-old Jonathan Beavers of Joplin was killed in the crash. In the other vehicle, there were 2 seriously injured. Melody Kelly, who's 47, of Seneca, and a 14-year-old passenger. They were both taken to the hospital. A La Harpe, Kansas woman is officially charged in the death of a baby boy. Allen County Attorney Jerry Hathaway says the crime happened in January. Now, following an autopsy, he says he's received the evidence he needs to charge Rebecca Dobbs with first-degree murder, felony murder, and aggravated child endangerment. The attorney did not release more details about what happened that led to the boy's death. KDOT plans a closure on this stretch of US 166 at the intersection of 5 Mile Avenue east of Baxter Springs. Crews are expanding the highway to 4 lanes and building 2 interchanges from 400 southeast to the Kansas-Missouri state line. While the work is underway, drivers should follow the marked detour signs on 400 and US 69A. The work is expected to be finished by late May of 2024. For 25 years, Pittsburgh State University has hosted something that brings in some unique cuisine. It's the International Food Festival. The festival is a way for the campus and community to taste international cuisine from more than 15 countries and see cultural performances from more than 8 nations. Food samples were served Saturday evening in the lobby of the Bicknell Family Center for the Arts, and of course, there were the live performances.
Yeah, so the International Food and Culture Fair is an event that we hold every year, sometimes in February, sometimes in March. It's basically international students giving out food to the community, so there's both food and performance to this. So it's a 2-for-1 deal.
Admission was only $1 and food samples were also $1. Missouri Southern hosted its 5th annual archery tournament. Student participants were competing to qualify for the Monasp State Tournament this month in Branson. MSSU partners with the Missouri National Archery Schools program to educate Missouri youth about archery. It's one of the largest tournaments before the state competition.
Okay, so this is our 5th archery tournament hosted here at Missouri Southern, and we have partnered with Joplin Schools to be able to host this. This is a very significant event because it's a very large tournament right before the state competition.
Tournament awards the top male and female archer $1,000 in scholarships. History is an important subject. It teaches us how to avoid repeating mistakes and allowing to view events in hindsight. Some area middle school and high school students showed what they've learned about it in a competition hosted by MSSU. This year's History Day competition was themed Debate and Diplomacy in History, Successes, Failures, and Consequences. Students were asked to prepare a research project and then present that project. One student we talked to researched a woman who spied for the Confederacy during the Civil War.
I really think it makes history come alive because it shows how interesting it can be, and it's not just boring facts. It can really get into interesting topics, and it's really fun.
The war in Ukraine has taken a toll on those who are abroad and at home in the country. The staff and students of Southeast High School surprised one of their very own to show support for her country. Sophia is a foreign exchange student from Ukraine. The school on Friday wore blue and yellow t-shirts that said "Pray for Ukraine" on them, showing support for Sophia in light of the war going on in her home nation. Sophia says she was surprised by the gesture and feels support from the community.
Now I have even more important role to be the only one Ukrainian person that people know in the community, in the area. So I just really feel lots of support here and appreciate that.
Sophia says through it all, she's maintained communication with her family and says they are safe. We'll hear more about this show of support later in the half hour. It's 5:07.
Coming off record rainfall recorded at Joplin Regional Airport of 1.13 inches. That breaks the previous record for March the 6th. Previous one was 1.08, so we barely squeaked above it. Dates back to 1973. Going to be dry here for the next several days coming off of our weekend precipitation. Also, too, much chillier than what we had last week. Gradually warming until another cold front hits from Thursday into Friday.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, University of Kansas played Texas. We're going to have results from that game. Plus, a lunch supervisor saves a student from choking. We'll have her story. And did you know being tall could put you at risk for a certain type of cancer? We'll have why that is. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Missouri Southern women's basketball team making it to the MIAA Tournament Championship for the first time since 1996. Lions were on the floor in Kansas City taking on Fort Hays State, looking to claim the tournament title. Southern beat the Tigers by 13 in Hays in their only meeting in the regular season. Defensive battle, Brooke Stauffer comes up with the steal. Later, in the same possession, Lacey Stokes gonna turn this into points. Team high 15 for Stokes. Second quarter, Lions down by 10. Lane Skiles lines up, knocks down a three. This sparks a Missouri Southern run. Caitlin Honeycutt will add with a three of her own. And we got ourselves a 3-point game going into halftime. Later, under 3 to play in regulation. Skiles, corner, drains it. She had 10, we got a tie game. Very next possession, Fort Hays with the response. Jaden Hobbs puts the Tigers back on top. Sydney Galladay finishes with the nice reverse layup. That seals it as Fort Hays State takes down Southern in the MIAA championship game. Low scoring affair, your final 48-42.
Both teams played tremendous on defense, taking things away, making it very difficult. Got very few good open look shots. I had no doubt that we'd be able to get back in the basketball game and win the basketball game. And the kids, they believe it as well. That didn't surprise me. We got down a little bit that we would fight to get back in because our kids don't have any quit. And it showed for the 40 minutes we played tonight.
With the conference tournament now behind them, Missouri Southern turns its attention to the national tournament. Lions will make their first appearance in the national tournament in 26 years, earning the 4th seed in the Central region. Southern is going to face St. Cloud State in the first round coming up on Friday. That'll take place March 11th, and guess where it'll be? It'll actually end up being in Hays, Kansas. At the Division I level, Kansas Jayhawks earning at least a share of the Big 12 championship as the Jayhawks beat Texas in overtime 70-63, claiming a Big 12 title for the 20th time in the last 26 seasons. In the comeback game, David McCormick with a season-high 22 points and 10 rebounds. Jalen Wilson had a double-double, 17 points, 13 boards, and Christian Brown added 13 as well. Kansas, the number 1 seed in the Big 12 Conference Tournament. That all begins on Wednesday. High school girls basketball team headed back to the 2A state tournament as Colgan topped Uniontown 55-27, claiming a sub-state championship, punching their ticket to Manhattan. Now with the win, Panthers remain undefeated headed into the state tournament next week.
I knew the kids were going to come in with a lot of energy, pretty antsy. You know, we've been waiting for this all season. We talked about it. This has been one of our biggest goals. And I knew it was going to be high energy in the beginning, you know, on their home court. You know, Danielle's a great player for them. So I thought they handled it really well. We missed a lot of bunnies early, but we settled in. You know, we played great defense again, and then we were able to, you know, do what we wanted to do on offense. We don't ever talk about the next game or the next game. We just talk about the one in front of us. And, you know, in the postseason, I just kept telling them that each game was the biggest game of the season because you lose, you go home. And, you know, they're just really locked in. They're playing really well together. I just don't think the lights get too bright for these kids, and I think they're just, you know, excited for the opportunity.
Matter of fact, we got 7 of our teams earning sub-state titles and moving on to state tournaments next week. On the girls' side, Labette County going to state in 4A, Frontenac and Cherryvale both in the 3A bracket, and Colgan girls and boys headed to state in 2A. Girard boys and Galena boys make the bracket in Class 3, and for the Bulldogs, that would be their 3rd straight trip to state. On the Missouri side, El Dorado Springs girls moving on to the state semifinals. Eldo beat Buchanan 55-24 in the state quarterfinals on Saturday. Bulldogs 27-3 this season. Going to play Stratford in the Class 3 semifinals. That'll be Thursday in Springfield. Little baseball action is Pittsburgh State and Missouri Southern. Currently the top 2 teams in home runs in the MIAA. Southern leads the league, 39 homers in 19 games. Gorillas are second. They've hit 31 in just 17 games. Lions catcher Tommy Stevenson leads the league individually in the home run category. Stevenson's already in double digits. He's hit 10. Right behind him with 9, Pitt State first baseman Garrett McGowan. Southern's Matt Miller, Pitt State's Caden Fowler, top 10 in the league as well. The Lions scoring a league-high 160 runs so far this season. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, the U.S. waives COVID tests for those fleeing Russia and Belarus due to the war. And a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Just past 5:17, do a little record keeping here with our daily almanac on March the 7th and look at our rain totals. Majority of it, of course, coming over the weekend, puts us up to 1.23 inches for the month of March alone. Now, 1.13 of that fell yesterday. Ended up being a record for March 6th at Joplin Regional Airport, eclipsing the previous record from 1973 that was 1.08 inches. So if I do the math right and carry the 1, only beat it by 5/100ths of an inch. But same point in time, a little bit needed. Over our weekend rain totals, so go all the way back to when the thunderstorms first arrived there for Friday into Saturday. See southwest Missouri, and really that's where we had that band of the heavy rain, thunder, and lightning roll through. We see pockets right there in the yellow indicating 3 inches. Really does taper off as you work toward southeast Kansas. Northeast Oklahoma, anywhere from about that 3/4 to 1.25 inches number when we take Saturday and Sunday both into consideration. Current conditions over Joplin, wet intersection, of course, 31 degrees is where we stand. Now, even with the wet intersection and temperatures below the freezing mark, have not had any reports of any slick spots out on the road. Still, take it easy. Also, too, remember, especially if your windshield was facing the south and you had to park outside, you may want to walk out there a little bit early because you're going to end up scraping some frost off of there. Northwest gusts already at 30 miles per hour. A whole bunch of below freezing temperatures. A couple places down at 32 down to the far south right there. We're as low as 25 right now in Iola. 30 in Lamar. Let's roll 31 in both Carthage and Monette as well. Factor in that north gust at 30 miles per hour and wind chills still sitting in the teens. It's going to be one of those weeks where Don't go home, don't leave home without the jacket, that is for sure. While we're clearing off to the west of us, we've still got a mess coming over here, especially along the Mississippi, where severe thunderstorm warnings, watches, and even tornado watches exist all the way through the morning hours. Also, too, of note, up to our north, we've got another warning to talk about. It's a winter weather advisory that they had, that at one point in time, this thing will expire in about 40 minutes for the Kansas City area. But part of that system that's moving right there, and you can tell anybody that gets above the old trough of the jet stream is going to have the colder temperatures for today, and then right along the dividing line where we see the warmer air is where the thunderstorm activity is popping up. And so while we don't have anything into effect, it's when I was talking about up here to the north, it's pretty much passed through the Kansas City area, really through northern Missouri as well. It'll affect portions of the middle of Iowa up through Illinois, and then down here with that thunderstorm activity, they're rolling a tornado watch here until 7 a.m. tonight. We actually had a couple reports come out of north central Arkansas yesterday in Piney County, where they had some trees down and apparent tornado damage. The National Weather Service will be investigating. As we progress through our day, the severe thunderstorm risk doesn't go anywhere, simply pushes to the east and a little bit to the northeast there, so up to the mid-Atlantic into portions even of D.C., and New York State. Almost makes its way halfway through New York State right there. Put that in the low category. At least we're able to lose that elevated and high that had popped up nationally for the last couple of days. Afternoon planner for us, chilly one compared to what we had last week. Going to be stuck in the high 30s, low 40s with that north wind that keeps on blowing. Wind will subside overnight. Skies not going to clear off though. We're going to grab some cloud cover and then fall back down below the freezing mark. But you'll also notice on Future Track that it's going to be a while before we get some more rainfall. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, going to stay dry for the most part. Now, let's talk Thursday into Friday. This is where it gets a little interesting, because not only do we have rain coming our way, but we got another cold front for Thursday into Friday, and see those temperatures down below freezing right there. There's a shot that we pick up a little snow from Thursday night into Friday morning. There's a shot my voice returns here in the next 10 seconds too. Goodness me, 7-day forecast just wore me out. My producer Ron right now, he's got his fingers crossed, praying that the voice comes back. Ron, I will make it through, I promise. A Missouri lunch lady has saved another life in the school cafeteria that she works in. Now, I say another life because you've got to know this lady's story. She's now saved 2 lives in the past 8 years. Caroline Hecker with a profile of the lunchroom hero.
Eat your lunch.
The cafeteria inside Heritage Intermediate School in Wentzville can be chaotic.
How we all doing?
Danielle Eichmeyer has worked the lunchroom for 26 years and seen it all.
Everybody okay here?
Every day she wears multiple hats, from disciplinarian,
Turn around, keep your hands to yourself.
to listener,
So how's everybody's day going so far?
to janitor.
Make sure you got all your trash.
But on one day in January, she became a lifesaver.
I was eating a Lunchable. It had a cracker, cheese, double of cheese. So I was eating and I swallowed it whole. So it felt like it got stuck around here, and I just felt like I couldn't breathe, and I was trying to get my mom's attention.
Shelby's mom works in the cafeteria too and immediately began slapping Shelby on the back, trying to free the food, but it wasn't working.
I happened to notice that her mom was kind of slapping her on the back, and the other kids were looking very panicked. So I was like, something was wrong.
I looked back and I saw Miss Eichmeyer swimming through the kids, and she put her hand on my stomach and pushed really hard.
Started doing the Heimlich maneuver, and I did it a couple of times and it didn't work. So I kind of put my leg between her legs to hike her up a little bit higher.
It took 3 times and it came up, and I just feel so grateful that she was there and helped me.
Shelby went to the nurse to get checked out and was back in class that afternoon. The terrifying ordeal, a flashback to 8 years ago, when Eichmeyer saved another student choking in the lunchroom.
You know, when we're doing the training, I always said, I'll never remember this, I'll never remember this. But he walked up to me and was doing this, and I said, are you choking? And he said, yeah, and I spun it. It was like I was trained and it stayed.
That 4th grade boy, now a senior in high school, thanks in part to Eichmeyer's quick thinking in 2014.
When I heard she did it before, I'm like, Miss Eichmeyer is the best teacher, and I'm pretty sure that kid was very grateful for her.
As the lunchroom excitement ends for the day, it'll be back on Monday, as will Mrs. Eichmeyer.
Anybody need anything else?
Looking out for the kids she considers her own.
About on the Insta poll, do you think all school personnel should know CPR? Connect to us via our Facebook page or go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. Health Watch is next.
Topping Health Watch this morning, if you've been thinking about that hot cocoa cup after your workout, well, a new study finds it may not be a great help after your routine. Research from the American Chemical Society revealed consumption of cocoa has little impact alleviating exercise-related digestive distress like nausea or diarrhea. Scientists studied 54 fit male athletes for 10 weeks following an intense workout program. The participants replaced their usual diets with cocoa or starch powder. Analysis found their symptoms did not significantly improve or stop at the end. However, researchers said further studies are needed to see cocoa effects on women. Well, a new study examines the links between height and the risk of colorectal cancer. The study from Johns Hopkins Medicine research says tall people might have a greater risk of developing colorectal cancer or malignant colon polyps and should possibly be screened more often for them. Scientists looked at 47 international studies covering more than 200,000 colorectal patients and more than 1,400 colonoscopy cases. Taller people had almost 25% more risk for colorectal cancer. They say taller people may have more mutation possibilities in organs due to taller size. And a recent study on anxiety among college students explains their likelihood of succeeding academically and socially. A study by a university in England says students with social anxiety are more likely to have poor grades and social relationships and will tend towards isolation. Researchers analyzed students at several universities and found characteristics like self-consciousness, overthinking, fear of judgment, and even avoiding reality can cause students to miss classes and assignments. Analysts suggest more university awareness with peer groups and mentoring. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back. Coming up, a bar shooting in Parsons, Kansas sends one to the hospital and another man wanted for the crime.
That rain we picked up over the weekend actually resulted in some record-breaking numbers. We'll have the latest on that and colder weather on the way from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a La Harpe, Kansas woman is charged in the death of a baby boy.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Your backyard is still a muddy mess?
Oh, it was dry. It was
just
dry.
In time.
And now it's Lake Tanya. Yes.
No surprise there because just at Joplin Regional Airport alone, we picked up an excess of 1 inch yesterday. A March 6th record got us 1.13 inches of rain. We even had pockets of southwest Missouri that ended up, if you go back for Friday night, ended up with about 3 inches of rain. Cool week ahead, 31 degrees right now in Joplin, 28 in Parsons, right at the freezing mark of 32 in Miami, 28 and 29 in Fort Scott and Nevada respectively. Got a strong north wind coming in as well, and that's why our wind chills will remain in the teens really till about sunrise comes up and we begin a little warm up, and we're going to combo not only the sunshine but also too gradual cloud cover moving off to the east. Severe thunderstorm activity is transpiring right now down in portions of Tennessee, and of course this coming off the fatal tornadoes that ripped through central Iowa from Saturday into Sunday as well. Our weather trend is going to be cooler but at least calm. We'll have sunshine and stay on the dry side, not only for today but really all the way through about almost the end of the week. Now as we warm up close to 60 on Thursday, you see a little rain that kicks in there, but the key factor is what transpires from Thursday night into Friday, because as we drop below that freezing mark, we could see a little bit of that rain transition into snow for Friday. Friday night into Saturday, my goodness, that's the coldest one that we have right now on the 7-day forecast. Overnight low of 14.
Yeah, it's going to be a chilly one this weekend. And then we shoot our clocks forward and warm back up.
Yep, and you can get a little snow on Friday, say goodbye to an hour of sleep on Sunday, and Now you glass half full me on this. You're supposed to be like,
Yeah.
sunny skies though, Michael.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said you shoot forward to warmer temperatures.
There you go.
You may miss an hour, but you're going to sleep, and when you wake up, it's going to be nice.
Because I love our viewers, and so said viewers shall remain nameless. I received a text message early on Sunday asking why the KOAM morning news was not on. And so while asking what was going on with our programming. So I'm frantically trying to figure out what's going on here at the station because it's 5 o'clock in the morning on Sunday.
On a Sunday.
I get another text back that simply says, "My bad, it's Sunday."
Not even the time changes, the whole day off.
Said viewer knows that I love him or her and there was no harm done, and I greatly appreciated them being on that type of schedule.
Yeah.
Thank you, said viewer, who I know is watching right now, as a matter of fact.
Hey, it's 5 a.m. on a Monday.
My phone's about to go off here in a matter of seconds, mark my word.
Yeah, that's all right. You called him out, kind of. All right, thanks, Michael. On Friday, authorities say a suspect shot and wounded a school resource officer and an administrator in Olathe, Kansas. Olathe police say the shooting happened in the office area at Olathe East High School. School's resource officer shot the suspect, who they believe is a student at the high school.
You know, I'm in the same boat as the rest of you all and parents here in Olathe of being shocked from this incident. You know, but I am also at the same time grateful to report that our SRO did his job and was injured because of it. And we have no students injured at this time other than the suspect. So.
Officials say the SRO, administrator, and the suspect will survive the shooting. The high school was locked down for a short time. The shooter, J. Long Deshaun Elmore, was charged with attempted capital murder, and bond is set at $1 million. More details following a shooting out of Parsons, Kansas on Saturday. Just before 2 in the morning, officers were called to the Somewhere Else bar at 2106 Crawford Avenue. One person was found shot and taken to Labette Health. David Lamont Young III is wanted for questioning in the incident. Young has ties to Parsons, Erie, the Crawford County area, Kansas City, and in Topeka. Young was also reported to be in the company of Raymond Regazio. If you have any information, you're urged to contact Parsons Police. A La Harpe, Kansas woman is officially charged in the death of a baby boy. Allen County Attorney Jerry Hathaway says the crime happened in January. And now, following an autopsy, he says he has received the evidence he needs to charge Rebecca Dobbs with first-degree murder, felony murder, and aggravated child endangerment. The attorney did not release more details about what happened that led to the boy's death. Authorities released the names of the people involved in a serious car crash in southwest Joplin. About 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, Joplin Dispatch was alerted to a serious two-vehicle crash near Love's along Coyote Drive. Joplin Fire and police responded alongside Newton County Ambulance. 25-year-old Jonathan Beavers of Joplin was killed in the crash. The other vehicle had 2 injuries. 47-year-old Melody Kelly of Seneca and a 14-year-old passenger. They were both taken to the hospital. KDOT plans a closure on this stretch of US 166 at the intersection of 5 Mile Avenue east of Baxter Springs. Crews are expanding the highway to 4 lanes and building 2 interchanges from 400 Southeast to the Kansas-Missouri state line. While the work is underway, drivers should follow the marked detour signs on 400 and US 69A. The work is expected to be finished by late May of 2024. Well, Ukraine has united a lot of people, and this includes the staff and students at Southeast High School. They decided to surprise one of their very own, a foreign exchange student from Ukraine. The school wore blue and yellow t-shirts that said "Pray for Ukraine," showing support in light of the war going on in her home nation. And we sent KOAM's Jalen Banks to check it out.
Now I have even more important role to be the only one Ukrainian person that people know in the community in the area. So I just really feel lots of support here and appreciate that.
Chicago.
Just being there for her, asking her how she's doing. I think this support's amazing. Like, it brings this patriotism in our school and just in our community, like the sense of family.
So
they are in the safest region, but it's still not safe because you still wake up from the alarm sirens, and you still sometimes can hear the military airplanes flying about your house. And I mean, even if they don't bomb your city, you're like, that doesn't mean that you're not being stressed. I mean, they're like really emotionally exhausted because you live in that all the time.
In here, at least.
You also have to remember that people can be going through a struggle with themselves, not just with what's going on in the world. So this is helping me understand. She's talked to me a couple times about what's going on, and it's made me really realize that there's bigger things in life.
Sophia says through it all, she has maintained communication with her family and says they are safe. Here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
Chilly one right now. We're mid-20s to right at the freezing mark. Don't have a whole lot of movement above that. We'll go sunrise on this March the 7th at 6:40, and just as the sun begins to come out, that's when the clouds will actually move from the west to the east. Stay on the dry side, but still the cold air not going anywhere. High 30s, low 40s, not only for today, but going to take a while there to warm up into the 50s. See that by Wednesday. Thursday, looking a whole lot better. And then you go, okay, Thursday night brings us rain. We drop below the freezing mark with another cold front and a little bit of Friday snow.
Well, this morning we're discussing a school lunch supervisor who was monitoring lunchtime at Heritage Intermediate School in Missouri when a student started choking. She immediately jumped in and saved the student's life with the Heimlich maneuver. And now, while this was back in January, it's something that's still making an impact on the student's life. Supervisor thinks of the kids as of her own and loves her job. And that brings us to our something to talk about. Do you think all school personnel should know CPR and other life-saving techniques?
Right now, 95% of our respondents, Tanya, say yes, all personnel should know CPR. And also, too, if you're ever wondered, if you ever have been interested in catching up on yourself, it's pretty much as easy as calling your local hospital right there. And a number of those classes that hospitals put on are open and free to those who want to attend. Just need to go ahead and schedule an appointment. So please, if you're interested in doing that, it really is as easy as a phone call.
Mm-hmm. And I've taken it with my son twice, the actual CPR training, that invaluable life skills.
And also too, I want to point out from my previous work life there, CPR protocols and policies change.
Yes.
And so just remember, just because you said, hey, I learned how to do it 20 years ago, things are going to be different now.
That's why your certification only goes for 2 years, two or 3 years. Yeah. All right, that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News. It's Women's History Month, and we'll be highlighting Condoleezza Rice, who made an impact on history, of course. Plus, PayPal suspends all financial services in Russia, citing its attack on the Ukraine. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch, the U.S. government waives a key health requirement for Americans wanting out of Russia or Belarus over the Russia-Ukraine war. State Department says the U.S. will no longer require proof of a negative COVID-19 test for Americans leaving either country in order to return to the U.S. The CDC says it will use discretion to allow travel by U.S. citizens, permanent residents, or holders of valid immigrant visas who were in Russia or Belarus by February 28th. CDC has made a similar waiver for people returning to the U.S. from Ukraine who'd been in the country by February 10th. PayPal suspends financial services in Russia, citing its war against Ukraine. The online money payment transfer system says it felt it was necessary to suspend payments inside Russia. PayPal said its other money transfer service, Zoom, was also halting operations there. The company said it would continue some customer disbursements for a period of time to comply with local laws. The move by PayPal follows other pullouts by financial services such as MasterCard and Visa, as well as a major tech company withdrawing from Russia over the war. Two prominent credit and debit card companies are suspending their operations inside Russia over an invasion of Ukraine. Like we mentioned, MasterCard and Visa say they will cease allowing their credit and debit cards to be used inside Russia for financial transactions. After a private video call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the two companies made their decisions within minutes of each other. The cards will not be usable through Russian banks or in commercial dealings. Russian business transactions accounted for about 4% of revenue for both companies in 2021. Let's look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Authorities respond to a shooting at a bar in Parsons, Kansas over the weekend. On Saturday, just before 2 a.m., officers were called to the Somewhere Else bar at 2106 Crawford Avenue. One person was found shot and taken to Labette Health. David Lamont Young III is wanted for questioning in the incident. Young has ties to Parsons, Erie, Crawford County area, Kansas City, and in Topeka. Young was also reported to be in the company of Raymond Regazio. If you have any information, you're urged to contact the Parsons Police Department. Authorities released the names of the people involved in a serious car crash in southwest Joplin. About 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, Joplin Dispatch was alerted to a serious two-vehicle crash near Loves along Coyote Drive. Joplin Fire and Police responded alongside Newton County Ambulance. 25-year-old Jonathan Beavers of Joplin was killed in the crash. In the other vehicle, both 47-year-old Melody Kelly of Seneca and a 14-year-old passenger were taken to the hospital. A La Harpe, Kansas woman is officially charged in the death of a baby boy. Allen County Attorney Jerry Hathaway says the crime happened in January. Now, following an autopsy, he says he has received the evidence he needs to charge Rebecca Dobbs with first-degree murder, felony murder, and aggravated child endangerment. The attorney did not release more details about what happened that led to the boy's death. On Friday, authorities say a suspect shot and wounded a school resource officer and an administrator in Olathe, Kansas. Olathe police say the shooting happened in the office area at Olathe East High School. School's resource officer shot the suspect, who they believe is a student at the high school. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Colder morning temps going to dominate us for the beginning of the week, especially compared to what we experienced last week. Some heavier cloud cover. They still got a little light snow that tried to come down there in the Springfield area. We're done with it for the most part as our skies now begin to clear off from west to east. Going to bring us some sunshine here a bit little later on. A weather trend, though, that kind of hovers in the high 30s, low 40s for today. We're going to gradually warm up here as we go through the week to the point where by the time we get to Thursday, we're going to be up around 60 degrees. Now, Thursday is also, too, our next round of precipitation. And as we back down about 20 degrees overnight, of course, some of that rain is going to turn into some snow on Friday. And then our coldest mark on the 7-day forecast, an overnight low from Friday to Saturday. That's only 14 degrees. Be back with more KOAM morning news right after this.
It is Women's History Month, and we've been celebrating it even here at KOAM. We'll take a look at a woman who left a mark in history. Asia Hassini reports.
It all goes back to John and Angelina Rice.
Rice learned the trademarks of leadership from her parents as a black girl living in the segregated South.
They didn't say it's sad that you have to be twice as good. They just said you have to be twice as good. They said there are no victims.
The music major at University of Denver found her real passion in Soviet studies and became a Soviet specialist, which took her to the White House and all over the world. One of Rice's greatest passions was helping women, especially those in Afghanistan. Even after U.S. troops left last summer and the Taliban took over, Rice never forgot their plight.
We have to keep them in the top of our mind. We should give no legitimacy to a government that will not educate women.
While women fight to be educated thousands of miles away, parents here at home are fighting to have a say in what their children are taught.
We have a terrible history. We have this birth defect of slavery. Everybody understands that. But when it turns to, I'm now going to teach this in a way that makes you, a 9-year-old, feel guilty for what your ancestors, many generations removed, did. Do we really want that for our children?
And as we celebrate the successes of women like Condoleezza Rice, her advice to other women is simple.
Find something that you're passionate about and work hard to make sure you're making a difference from that perspective.
Condoleezza Rice definitely broke some ground. We'll be right back.
Our wind plan, quite a key factor here as we find ourselves at, what are we, about 3 minutes till the top of the hour. Look at this increase overnight. This is why we have wind chills right now in the teens. Those are not gusts, those are sustained winds close to 20 miles per hour. Did pick up some much needed rain, 1.13 inches at Joplin Regional Airport yesterday, so puts us up to 1.23 for the month of March. See pockets right here. Remember, this goes back to Friday night. See pockets throughout southwest Missouri, though, up in that 3-inch range, and then severely tapers off as you work through southeast Kansas. Southeast Kansas may be where we actually need a little bit more of the rain. Joplin sits at 30 degrees right now. Wet intersection, but haven't picked up any reports of spots of travel concerns. Looking pretty good right now, but look, only feels like it's 19 degrees. So while our temperatures go anywhere from about 26 to 32, definitely some heavier coat weather, because it's only going to feel about like 18 degrees when you step outside right there in Webb and in Carthage, 17 in Parsons, 21 in Grove. Excuse me, our rain is a thing of the past, dominating portions along and just east of the Mississippi right now, where they even have tornado watches that are spanning all along the Tennessee River Valley and will up until about 7 a.m. And then the threat just moves off to the east. It really doesn't disperse on this Monday. As far as our temperatures, slowly warming up to the 50s by Wednesday, but then Thursday brings us some rain followed by another cold front with some snow on Friday.
Coming up, a shooting early Saturday morning leaves one man in the hospital and the Parsons police looking for a suspect.
Got a wet intersection over 7th and Range Line coming off of our rain. Now we dry out and find out if we warm up from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Allen County brings first-degree murder charges against a La Harpe woman in the death of an infant.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Wet intersection, Tanya, but so far have not picked up any reports of treacherous travel concerns in the 4 states, despite the fact that even with the wet roads and we're below the freezing mark, ground pretty warm still coming off of last week. Tell you what, big difference though when you factor in that wind is our wind chills are still in the teens. These are actual temperatures. And the freezing mark is about as good as we get down in Miami and in Grove. Everybody else slipping below that. And grab the kiddos that coat as they get ready for school today, because we're going to take a little bit before we even get our wind chills up into the 20s. Skywatch Storm Tracker remains clear. Our rain from overnight now pushing off to the east. Still picking up a little bit of snow down there in northwestern Arkansas in the elevated areas. That's kind of isolated down to I-40. Winter storm rolling through portions of Iowa. That's the last thing that they need. We'll get to that in a second. Thunderstorm activity through the Tennessee River Valley. Saturday evening and early afternoon into evening. This is about a 4-hour affair where tornadoes spawned in the southwestern portion of Iowa. About 4 hours later, they were finally done by the time that they almost got there to the Illinois state line. 7 people confirmed dead, and the National Weather Service will be spending the majority of its time out there estimating the damage as this thing cut right through the middle of Des Moines. And then, like I said, on top of that, now they've got snow that's going to hamper their cleanup efforts. There's the thunderstorms that we talked about that have resulted in tornado watches for portions of Tennessee and Kentucky on this Monday morning. For us, there's what I was talking about as far as the yellow indicating the tornado watches. Hopefully we can allow those to expire at 7 right here. Severe thunderstorm risk map just continually moves towards the east coast for Monday. Here in the 4 states, high pressure comes over us. We just don't have a chance to warm up here until really we get to the middle of the week. And Tanya, while Wednesday and Thursday don't look too bad, 55 and 58, remember, Thursday night's rain is accompanied by a cold front. It's going to flip some of that rain over to snow for us on Friday.
All right, well, we got a little taste of that frost this morning.
Yeah, there may be some windows scraping out there, folks. I'd go take a look at it. Don't think if you park outside, don't think you're just going to jump in and take off right there. Going to take a little warming up.
That's for sure. All right, thanks, Michael. And we have some breaking news on a fatal car crash that happened in southwest Joplin over the weekend. Around 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, Joplin Dispatch were alerted to a serious 2-vehicle crash near Loves along Coyote Drive. Joplin Fire Police responded alongside Newton County Ambulance. 25-year-old Jonathan Beavers of Joplin was killed in the car crash. The other vehicle had 2 injuries. Melody Kelly, 47-year-old from Seneca, and 14-year-old passenger were taken to the hospital. A shooting occurs at a bar in Parsons, Kansas early Saturday morning. On Saturday, just before 2 in the morning, officers were called to the Somewhere Else bar at 2106 Crawford Avenue. One person was found shot and taken to Labette Health. David Lamont Young III is wanted for questioning in the incident. Young has ties to Parsons, Erie, the Crawford County area, Kansas City, and Topeka. Young was also reported to be in the company of Raymond Regazio. If you have any information, you're urged to contact the Parsons Police Department. Charges are officially brought against a La Harpe, Kansas woman in the death of a baby boy. Allen County Attorney Jerry Hathaway says the crime happened in January. Now, following an autopsy, he says he's received the evidence he needs to charge Rebecca Dobbs with first-degree murder, felony murder, and aggravated child endangerment. The attorney did not release more details about what happened that led to the boy's death. Significant writer of the 20th century was born right here in Joplin. Langston Hughes was known as a poet and writer, but he was also so much more. It's why the Joplin Public Library hosted a Langston Hughes program to tell more of his story. Marjol Rush Colette, a cousin of Hughes, says the exhibit and presentation was a way to show people more about not just Hughes, but his family as well.
So it basically tells the story of the history of the Hughes family. And so I want people to understand that before Langston Hughes was the writer and the poet and the author, he came from a family.
Colette says she hopes the exhibit can spark excitement about history, especially in younger generations. We'll have more on this story when the KOAM Morning News switches over to Fox 14 at 7 o'clock. More than 1.5 million people have fled Ukraine as Russia continues its invasion, and that's according to the UN. It's become harder for civilians to flee, though, as Russian troops are increasing bombings of major cities, and they're getting closer to reaching Kyiv. Laura Podesta has the latest.
4 people, including 2 children, died from this attack in the Ukrainian city of Irpin. Just 15 miles from Kyiv, Russian forces shelled the city as they move closer to the capital.
We know why we defend our country.
In Kyiv, hundreds of men are volunteering to fight.
We know what we are doing, and that's why we will win.
President Volodymyr Zelensky urged his people to not give up and called on other nations to supply Ukraine with fighter jets, something the U.S. and Poland are working on.
We're talking with our Polish friends right now about what we might be able to do to backfill their needs if, in fact, they choose to provide these fighter jets to the Ukrainians.
There's a third round of talks between Russia and Ukrainian delegations today. A local ceasefire brokered at last week's meeting to allow citizens to flee Mariupol was quickly broken.
We see the consequence of war.
Congressman Raul Ruiz was part of a congressional delegation that visited the Polish-Ukrainian border this weekend.
I saw women crying because of the horrors of having to leave behind their spouse or elder son who are fighting in this war. It is truly a humanitarian crisis that we must address.
Lawmakers are hopeful that a $10 billion aid package for Ukraine can be passed as soon as this week. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Russian news agencies are reporting Moscow has agreed to a ceasefire around several cities this morning to allow for humanitarian corridors. It's unclear yet whether that is actually happening. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, there is growing momentum to ban Russian oil and natural gas imports to further cripple its economy. Well, on this date, back in 1965, a 600-person civil rights demonstration ends in violence when marchers are attacked and beaten by white state troopers and sheriff's deputies in Selma, Alabama. The day's events became known as Bloody Sunday. Future Congressman John Lewis co-led the demonstration. The plan was to march the 54 miles from Selma to Montgomery, but when they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge outside Selma, police ordered them to disperse. Moments later, the police assaulted them with tear gas, bullwhips, and billy clubs. Violence was broadcast on TV and demonstrations sprung up in 80 cities around the country. President Lyndon B. Johnson, prodded by what he called, quote, the outrage of Selma, passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
Heard a number of interviews from John Lewis over the weekend and just the knowledge that he takes. And he pointed out that the Big Ten Conference is taking a group of administrators and athletes from different sports. And of course, we think about the geographic location of the Big Ten Conference, offering them the chance to go down to the Deep South, the Edmund Pettus Bridge being one of the places that they'll visit, along with another civil rights movements, monuments, and giving them a chance to kind of get outside their geographic box and learn about what went through that period.
Keeping history alive. That's awesome.
7-day forecast. It'd be nice if we could get a little bit of a warm up today, but we're going to be stuck in the 40s. Now, Wednesday and Thursday, now we're rolling up into the 50s, but look at Thursday into Friday. We've got some nighttime rain that is accompanied by a cold front on the backside that's going to flip some of that precipitation over to snow for Friday.
All right, that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. Want to improve your life in only 8 steps? Lindsay Stevenson from the Missouri Extension Office stops by our studio to show us how. Plus, Madison County, Iowa is dealing with the aftermath of a massive tornado that ripped through the community over the weekend. We'll take you there. And in honor of Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, experts encourage people to get a regular screening. You're watching the KOAM Morning News, more real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, a horrific scene in parts of Iowa on Sunday. A powerful EF3 tornado ripped through Madison County with winds between 136 miles per hour and 165 miles per hour, hitting parts of the state. Madison County Emergency Management reports the twister killed at least 6 people. It also damaged buildings and homes and uprooted trees and power lines. Cleanup efforts are now underway and residents are vowing to rebuild. Wildfires in the Florida Panhandle are growing and forcing evacuations. The Atkins Avenue fire in Bay County has reportedly burned 1,400 acres and is 35% contained as of Sunday. Strong winds are making it hard for crews to fully contain the fire. Evacuation orders are still in place for about 600 homes. No timeline as to when they might be able to go back. The Bertha Swamp Road fire in Gulf County is reportedly burning 8,000 acres and is 10% contained. Florida Forest Service has reported nearly 150 fires across the state. Those fires are burning more than 12,000 acres, with nearly 10,000 of those acres burning in the Panhandle. Seattle police say they were forced to kill an armed man who rammed his pickup into a federal office building Saturday evening. After crashing his truck into the building, the suspect briefly engaged with officers before brandishing a rifle, triggering them to open fire. In accordance with policy, Seattle's force investigation team will review the officer-involved shooting. Seattle Police Department is expected to release video from the officer's body-worn cameras within 72 hours. The name of the suspect has not been released, nor any information about his potential motive. Security scare at Joint Base Andrews. Authorities say 2 people, at least one of them armed, drove through a security checkpoint Sunday night, not long after Vice President Kamala Harris and other officials had arrived on the base. Barriers were deployed to stop the vehicle. The 2 intruders got out and ran away. Authorities caught one person with a weapon. They're still searching for the other. The motive behind the incident was not immediately clear, and Vice President Harris had returned to the base after a trip to Selma, Alabama to mark the 57th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. Harris and her staff and several cabinet members, including Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, all left the base safely. And back in Florida, people in downtown Jacksonville watched this building implode on Sunday. The Berkman Plaza, the second building, has been an abandoned structure for a number of years. Partially completed building has been sitting since the construction stopped in 2007. After years of delays, crews were finally able to take the building down. The implosion cost more than $1 million. Developer now wants to build the city's tallest skyscraper at the site. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back with Lindsay Stevenson from the Mizzou Extension Office, who's here to tell us how to improve our lives in just 8 steps. Stick around.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. Special guest in the studio. It's been a long time, pre-COVID, is that right?
Yeah.
It's been pre-COVID since we've been joined by Lindsay Stevenson. Lindsay, thank you so much, number one, for your time. Lindsay is a health and nutrition expert at the Missouri Extension Office. And Lindsay, while I know that we're calling this Live Well Month, it seems like you're pushing this to be more than a month. You want this to be an actual movement.
Oh, absolutely. So Living Well Month is all about, of course, living well, but also recognizing the work that family and consumer science professionals with Cooperative Extension do all year long to improve the lives of individuals, families, and communities.
I love the fact that you've been able to break this down into 8 distinct points that maybe we can concentrate on with our kids. I say this as a parent, and it's going to be helpful to myself as well. When it comes to talking to a younger generation and trying to reiterate those points to them, where do you think we start? Where's the top? Or maybe we start from the bottom and build that foundation. What do you prescribe?
Well, I think the best thing is to start small. I think a lot of times we dive in too deep, too quick, and we also forget areas of wellness. So we focus on the physical, but as we are talking about today, there's 8 dimensions. So there's a lot of different ways we can focus on our health that are not just exercising and eating right.
One of the things that's very difficult to talk about, yet has been taking center stage lately, is mental health. You're right. We talk so much. Hey, guess what? Breaking news. Exercise is going to help you live longer. Hey, guess what? Greens are good for you at the dinner table. When it comes to talking to mental health, what steps has the Missouri Extension Office been taking to have people open up about their feelings?
So we have human development and family specialists who have this training. It's called Mental Health First Aid, and it's for teens and adults, and it teaches people to recognize a mental health event like you would respond to a first aid event, like if someone fell and broke their ankle or cut their leg or something like that.
Have you seen this trickle down? Because you were talking about our health and consumer sciences, and I immediately think about the teachers that are probably around our children at some points, especially during the school year, more than the parents are. How are they adapting and adopting those mental health features into their classrooms?
I think some districts in our area have taken that mental health first aid training, and I'm sure they're utilizing a lot of the things they've learned from that class.
What interaction do you have as far as when you talk about people wanting to reach out to you? Are you seeing an increase in people interested in health? And the reason I specifically ask this is our habits changed so much during the past 2.5, 3 years with the pandemic. Are you seeing an increase of people saying, hey, I need to get back on this, I want to get back on this, or maybe this is my opportunity to turn a new leaf?
I've definitely seen people more interested in our virtual programming, especially one of our classes called Taking Care of You, which is all about stress management and taking care of yourself. You have to make sure you're well before you can give a lot of time and devotion to someone else.
Well, let's talk about that virtual class, if you don't mind me asking. What are some of the things that you try to reflect that, hey, this is the best, we've seen these outcomes work the best for people in this virtual class? Just kind of give me the quick elevator speech. What do you pass along?
Specifically about the Taking Care of You program?
Yes.
Oh.
I understand it's probably a very in-depth class. I understand that.
I would say the biggest takeaway for a lot of people is just learning how to reframe a situation. Maybe they looked at it one way at first, but then they took a step back and were able to see it with clearer eyes and were able to accept it and move on.
We get so lost in the weeds, though, because our 8 to 5s or whatever your work schedule may be, we get so myopic. How do you advise people to take that step back and take that 50,000-foot view?
It's just setting aside time for yourself without distractions, being mindful and being present.
One of the, we've got a second group of tips here on a full screen for you, and one thing that caught my eye was read, read, read. And it just so happens, and the reason I asked you this is a little self-serving, folks. I spent my entire weekend pretty much doing that. Why is that important?
Well, that's part of our intellectual wellness, which is one of the spokes on our wellness wheel. And if we look at all 8 dimensions of wellness like a wellness wheel, each one of them being a spoke, if one of those spokes isn't reaching the edge of the wheel, if it's closer to the center of the wheel, then our wheel isn't going to roll right. So all dimensions are important.
Take me through this wheel and the spokes. What are the other spokes that I need to identify?
All right, so we have physical, spiritual, social, emotional, intellectual, mental, environmental, and financial.
When you talk to your consumer science teachers, when you talk to people of the community, what spoke, is there a spoke that you see us coming up short of more than the other spokes?
Well, first of all, I don't talk a lot with family and consumer science teachers.
How about just from your spot at the Missouri Extension office? Do you see a common theme as far as a spoke being shorted?
I would say we spend a lot of time in the physical, of course, and we're starting to spend more time in the mental. The financial gets some attention, but I think the rest of the spokes need some more attention.
Okay, now you've got me with like 18 different other questions. Can you stick around for a little bit?
I'll be here.
Okay, we're going to come back, and then Lindsay and I are going to go through additional spokes, because now that you've said, hey, we're shorting everything, now I want to take a deeper dive into this. So please stick with us, and Lindsay will return here, and we'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, new research finds smoking in underserved communities is nearly double the U.S. national rate. A study in the journal Cancer gathered data through health centers serving people experiencing homelessness, as well as agricultural workers and residents of public housing. The findings also showed that among those who currently smoked, more than half had depression. A new study examines the links between height and the risk of colorectal cancer. The study from Johns Hopkins Medicine Research says tall people might have a greater risk of developing colorectal cancer or malignant colon polyps and should possibly be screened more often for them. Scientists looked at 47 international studies covering more than 200,000 colorectal patients, more than 1,400 colonoscopy cases. Taller people had almost 25% more risk for colorectal cancer. They say taller people may have more mutation possibilities in organs due to taller size. And mothers who deliver in hospitals with maternity practices designated baby-friendly are more likely to successfully breastfeed their newborns exclusively a month after birth. A study in the journal Pediatrics found not providing in-hospital formula was a key factor. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Coming up, a shooting early Saturday morning leaves one man in the hospital and the Parsons police looking for a suspect.
Our second week of March off to a little bit of a chilly start. The cold weather is here, but a little bit of a midweek warm-up on the way. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Allen County brings first-degree murder charges against a La Harpe woman in the death of an infant.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, back to that cold with Michael Hayslip.
I think Sunday probably prepared us a little bit coming off Saturday. I mean, it's still delightful. But then, of course, as far as Sunday goes, we only topped out in the low 40s and then down below the freezing mark for this Monday morning. Here's where we stand. These are actual temperatures, about 25 to 32 degrees, just a couple of 32s though. Most communities below the freezing mark, and when you factor in the good north wind that we've established already, double digits, 20 miles per hour in Independence, 21 right now in Chanute. It is back to the jackets when the coats when the kids head out the door. Wind chills right now still in the teens. Gradually, we'll see the cloud cover out to the west begin to recede and make an easterly push, so it'll take a while before you get a good dose of sunshine throughout southwest Missouri. It had a little bit of snow that tried to fall, some light freezing drizzle that really stayed east of the Springfield mark, and some snow down in elevated areas of northwest Arkansas as well. Sunny skies today, yet cool temps, low 40s, about as good as we're going to get. Wind chills still going to be in the mid 30s all day long, but we will be dry on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. This coming off record-setting rainfall yesterday at Joplin Regional Airport, where we picked up 1.13 inches, setting a March 6th record. Now, the mercury slowly begins to push up here into the 50s by the time we get to Wednesday, and Thursday, not looking too bad. Let's talk Thursday evening into Friday, because after that rain kicks in, the cold front is right behind it, and that rain is going to flip over to some snow on Friday.
All right, we'll be prepared for it, hopefully.
And then Friday night, just bundle up.
Yeah, for sure.
Just bundle up on Friday night.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Michael. New details are released overnight in a fatal car crash that happened in southwest Joplin over the weekend. About 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, Joplin Dispatch was alerted to a serious two-vehicle crash near Love's along Coyote Drive. Joplin Fire and Police responded alongside Newton County Ambulance. 25-year-old Jonathan Beavers of Joplin was killed in the crash. The other vehicle had 2 injuries. 47-year-old Melody Kelly of Seneca and her 14-year-old passenger were both taken to the hospital. Charges are officially brought against a La Harpe, Kansas woman in the death of a baby boy. Allen County Attorney Jerry Hathaway says the crime happened in January. Now following an autopsy, he says he's received the evidence he needs to charge Rebecca Dobbs with first-degree murder, felony murder, and aggravated child endangerment. The attorney did not release more details about what happened that led to the boy's death. A shooting occurs at a bar in Parsons, Kansas early Saturday morning. On Saturday, just before 2 in the morning, officers were called to the Somewhere Else bar at 2106 Crawford Avenue. One person was found shot and taken to Labette Health. David Lamont Young III is wanted for questioning in the incident. Young has ties to Parsons, Erie, the Crawford County area, Kansas City, and Topeka. Young was also reported to be in the company of Raymond Regazio. If you have any information, you are urged to contact Parsons Police. Kansas drivers should prepare for closure on a stretch of US 166 at the intersection of 5 Mile Avenue east of Baxter Springs. KDOT crews are expanding the highway to 4 lanes there and building 2 interchanges from 400 Southeast to the Kansas-Missouri state line. While the work is underway, drivers should follow the marked detour signs on 400 and US 69A. The work is expected to be finished by late May 2024. Non-tribal members can now face prosecution of certain crimes in the Quapaw Nation's tribal court. This comes as the existence of the Quapaw Reservation was upheld by the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals last October. This change allows the nation to assert criminal jurisdiction over non-Indians. Previously, if a non-Indian committed a domestic violence crime on tribal land, it was handled by federal court instead of the tribal courts.
So we do have multiple cases where a non-native will come out on the reservation and be involved in an assault or domestic violence situation with a native victim, and sometimes those don't get prosecuted because of the gap. So just the ability of the tribe to be able to fill that gap and protect their citizens is just very paramount.
In addition to domestic violence crimes, the new jurisdiction also includes dating violence and violations of a protective order. We'll have more on this story when we switch over to Fox 14 at 7 a.m. Pro-Ukrainian demonstrations continue all around the world, and the St. Louis area is no exception. Alex Fees takes us to a rally in St. Charles.
They start on one end of Frontier Park with a message they hope will stretch beyond St. Charles, Missouri.
Glory to US! Glory to heroes! Glory to Ukraine! Glory to heroes!
It's a flowers. It just represents the Ukrainian flag, you know, yellow and blue.
They pack their Ukrainian national colors along with their conviction.
Mayor Borgmeyer, do you think halfway around the world here in the middle of America, can we make a difference?
I went halfway around the world to Vietnam, and we made a difference there.
I had exchange students in the past, and I still keep in contact with them, and I'm just here to show support.
Some are native to America.
My wife's Ukrainian, my 3 kids are Ukrainian. I got married in Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. So we're here to voice as much as we can, kind of let everybody know, you know, just like the whole world, where we stand.
Others are native to Ukraine.
To support Ukraine. Every country is supposed to be free.
It was not lost on participants that this demonstration is happening literally on the other side of the world.
I mean, on the West, it's quiet. You know, thank God for now. I don't know, but you know, in Kiev, it's pretty intense. So, and they even have to, you know, be scared now of looters.
You appear to be kind of touched by that, Wayne.
I am very touched.
Why?
Because it's a disgrace what they're doing to the country. I think we should shut down the airspace.
All are united in that they cannot stand by and ignore what is happening.
Well, on this day in 2010, Kathryn Bigelow becomes the first woman to ever win an Oscar for Best Director for her film, The Hurt Locker. Remember that movie? Prior to Bigelow, only 3 women had been nominated for a Best Director Oscar. Alina Wertmiller for the 1975's Seven Beauties, Jane Campion for 1993's The Piano, and Sofia Coppola for 2003's Lost in Translation. Bigelow made her feature film debut with The Loveless in 1982. She went on to make Blue Steel, Point Break, and Zero Dark 30. The Hurt Locker dealt with an American bomb squad that disabled explosives in Iraq in 2004. Film, which also starred Jeremy Renner, Also won Oscars for Best Picture, Film Editing, Sound Mixing, and Original Screenplay.
One of the most unforgettable opening scenes that I can remember, with the slow motion and the sand coming up like that with the explosion, shot on Super 16 millimeter.
Yeah.
Barry Ackroyd, she recruited Barry Ackroyd to shoot that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing movie.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's a look at our, oh no, let's take a look at your weather real quick.
We can do that.
Yeah.
42 degrees today, still waiting on the warm up because our wind chills right now, high teens. Give us some sunshine here. Sunrise officially at 6:40, so I'll tell you what, Tanya, this is a great thing about live television. Let's just do it on the fly. Let's see what we got outside. Eee, a little overcast right there. So we'll let those clouds break and keep up with our rising temps. Remember, dry up until Thursday, and then Thursday night rain flips over to some snow for Friday morning.
That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, Batman takes on the box office over the weekend. Could the Caped Crusader defeat another superhero movie for biggest post-pandemic opening? We find out. Plus, we know our kids tend to be in good hands when we send them off to school, but do you think school personnel should be trained in CPR? We let you weigh in. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, the Caped Crusader delivers a punch at the box office. The Batman brought in $128 million this weekend, the second highest opening since the coronavirus pandemic began. Spider-Man: No Way Home remains the comic book king. Spidey made $260 million in its December opening. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for our something to talk about. And that is school. And there you go, Michael.
Anyway, there's a lunch lady who saved a kid's life with CPR. And it turns out this is not her first encounter. She has actually saved 2 people at her school district in the last 8 years. Truly an amazing woman and an amazing story. So we wanted to ask about first aid in a school district. Our question to you this morning, do you think all school personnel should know CPR? And right now, 88% of you say yes, just to kind of reiterate what we talked about earlier. Should you be interested in CPR classes? It's usually as easy as calling your local hospital. If they don't have specific classes, they can surely set you up with a close to home place that does, and for the most part, you schedule in advance and whatnot, it actually comes at no cost to you. Each and every morning, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. You can also connect to us via our Facebook page, or if you've got your phone handy, simply take a picture of our QR code, and that will deliver you to our poll each and every morning. As a matter of fact, there she is right now. And like I said, that's not just specific for today. That'll take you there any day of the week. We're going to come back and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. But first, to check into the Big Apple, see what's coming up on CBS Mornings, here's Tony.
Author Michael Lewis looks back at his debut memoir, Liar's Poker, supposed to shock Wall Street. Not the response he got, though. That's coming up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Robert Peake. Seaman First Class Peake served with the Navy from 1943 to 1945. He served in the Pacific Theater with USS Coral, which was later renamed the USS Anzio. He worked in signal communication during his service, earning the Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars, and the Pacific Ribbon. His hometown, Joplin, Missouri. We thank you, today's four-state hero, Robert Peake.
The birthday list commences with Leanna Farrow. She's already got a set of wheels and she is ready to roll at the ripe old age of 2. Leanna, a very happy birthday with love from Aunt Crystal, Uncle Justin, and your cousins, Brooklyn, Bradley, Brendan, Hazel, and Nanny. And Leanna riding around in Oswego.
All right, so well, if Leanna's turning 2, that means Gianna Allen is also 2 years old. Look at that little Minnie Mouse hat. I like that. Gianna is in Parsons. Happy birthday.
A little fun in the snow. I love that. Abby Brokoff, she is celebrating her 3rd birthday, and that is a cake fit for a princess if I've ever seen one right there. My goodness, Abby. How long do you think Mom and Dad had to say, you have to take this pose before we dig into that cake?
That's a genuine smile, though.
Well, Abby, you did a marvelous
She's excited
job.
to eat
A happy
that cake.
3rd birthday in Girard.
All right. In Pittsburgh, Aubrey Smithson turning 3 years old as well. Aw, that's a cute siblings picture there. Happy birthday, Aubrey.
Well, don't forget the Big Mac.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Because if Aubrey is turning 3 today, that means Braden is turning 5 tomorrow.
Shout out to the Smithson family
Yeah.
and what is probably an extremely busy week. My goodness, happy birthday to the 2 of you. Kaiser Clark celebrating his 7th birthday. He already knows how to carry that thing. Look at that, that's great. Happy number 7, Kaiser.
All right. And Graciela Medina celebrating birthday number 9 this year. Blowing those bubbles there in Pittsburgh. Love from Queenie, Mom, King, and the rest of your family.
Graciela is one of those kids that we get a picture every year, and I love watching him grow up. That is tremendous. Joseph Powell, now 11, with a medal to go with it. A little Trojan pride right there as he celebrates in Girard. Happy birthday, Joseph.
All right. And Leighton Johnson turning 13. Welcome to the teenage years, Leighton in Fort Scott.
Tiger pride right there. Jaden Clouch celebrating number 15. Hey, we're just about there, Jaden. I know practice is underway. I've run into her on a softball field a couple times. Not gonna lie to you, she breaks. Happy birthday, kiddo, in Chanute.
All right. And in Carl Junction, we've got Maggie Brown turning 19 years old this year. As you can see, she's a PSU student and cheerleader. Whole family is sending you out birthday love today.
A milestone in Scammon is Amy Higgins celebrating her 50th birthday. Miss Amy, a very happy birthday to you.
And Vi Tupa turning 62 years old this year, celebrating in Jasper, Missouri.
Happy birthday, Miss Vi. Long time no see. In Carl Junction, Ron Craig is celebrating his 67th birthday. Now, Lindsay Stevenson with us in studio here. She knows a little bit about Southwest Missouri. Do you know Mr. Craig, Lindsay? You don't? Okay. Well, Lindsay is still wishing you a happy birthday, Mr. Craig. Once again, he's turning 67 in CJ.
All right, in Chanute, Kansas, also turning 67, it's time to celebrate for Betty Harris. Hope you have a wonderful day, Miss Betty.
I go past this gentleman's farm just about every other day. He always waves at me when he's outside. Don Hurd turning number 72. Mr. Hurd, I always love seeing you out there, and hope you know that's me. That's waving at you, sir, not just like some random guy that seems to come by every other day. Happy birthday, Mr. Hurd at Asbury.
All right, out in Carl Junction, Krista Crowder is celebrating a birthday today as well. Hope it's wonderful for you.
We got Lisa Sandberg. Oh, happy birthday, Miss Lisa. She is celebrating a birthday in Columbus. Now on to the anniversaries.
Okay, we've got a little throwback picture there for the Dillons. 30 years together for Rob and Angie Dillon. They're in Girard. Anniversary wishes coming from Mom and Dad.
That's a good one. ED&D Isle, they are celebrating their 50th anniversary. Congratulations to Eddie and D. That is tremendous. They celebrated. I hope that they had a marvelous weekend because their anniversary is on Friday. We're going to carry it over into this week as they celebrate in Chanute.
And here's an impressive number, 63 years for the Crosbys. Wow. Congrats going out to Wayne and Patricia from Oswego. Happy anniversary.
Dorothy No, out at Farlington. Dorothy, I hope you got a chance to maybe spend some time even on the lake last week as it was so nice outside. A happy birthday. Samantha Hall is celebrating her 37th birthday. And Samantha, I want you to know that this happy birthday wish comes from your sister Charity, as Samantha is in Pittsburgh, and Daniel and Judy Veenstra. They are celebrating their 47th wedding anniversary. Congratulations to Daniel and Judy in Mound Valley. A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. This is where you can send them into. Birthdays at KOAMTV.com. You can also go to our website at KOAMNewsNow.com. Now, here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Now, coming up here in just a tad, we've got a story about a woman that was stuck inside of a burning car. Her family unable to help and the car in danger of exploding. A gentleman by the name of Elton Ward entered the picture. You're going to want to find out about his heroism, and we're also kind enough to be joined once again by Lindsay Stevenson, health and nutrition expert at the Missouri Extension Office. Chilly one when you step outside. There's a live look over Television City. The cloud cover, at least we stay on the dry side, coming off of what was our record-breaking rain at Joplin Regional Airport yesterday. 1.13 inches by the time it was all said and done. 32 is as warm as we see right now, and you got to bop down to Miami, Grove, and Anderson to find that. Everybody else below the freezing mark. A little bit warmer here by the middle of the week, but also, too, remember, by the time we roll from Thursday into Friday, we're actually going to be talking about the possibility of that evening precipitation flipping over into some snow for the weekend. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The bar in Parsons, Kansas sees a shooting on its property on Saturday just before 2 in the morning. Officers were called to the Somewhere Else bar, 2106 Crawford Avenue. One person was found shot and taken to Labette Health. David Lamont Young III is wanted for questioning in the incident. Young has ties to Parsons, Erie, Crawford County area, Kansas City, and Topeka. Young was also reported to be in the company of Raymond Regazio. If you have any information, you're urged to contact Parsons Police. And authorities released the names of the people involved in a serious car crash in southwest Joplin. Around 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, Joplin Dispatch was alerted to a two-vehicle crash near Loves along Coyote Drive. Joplin Fire and Police responded alongside Newton County Ambulance. 25-year-old Jonathan Beavers of Joplin was killed in the crash. The other vehicle had 2 injured. 47-year-old Melody Kelly of Seneca and a 14-year-old passenger were taken to the hospital. La Harpe, Kansas woman is officially charged in the death of a baby boy. Allen County Attorney Jerry Hathaway says the crime happened in January. And now, following an autopsy, he says he has received the evidence he needs to charge Rebecca Dobbs with first-degree murder, felony murder, and aggravated child endangerment. The attorney did not release more details about what happened that led to the boy's death. On Friday, authorities say a suspect shot and wounded a school resource officer and an administrator in Olathe, Kansas. Olathe police say the shooting happened in the office area at Olathe East High School. The school's resource officer shot the suspect, who they believe is a student at the high school. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Chilly and windy on this Monday morning. Those are our actual temperatures. We've already picked up sustained winds in excess of 20 miles per hour. And with it coming out of the north-northwest, we know that's going to result in wind chills that are going to stay in the teens here for quite some time, because we need this cloud cover to kind of kick off, which it will eventually. It's slowly clearing off to the west to give us some sunshine. Sunshine really not enough to overcome the cold Canadian air that dropped down on us, though. So we'll go, say low 40s for today. Slowly warming up there. 50s by Wednesday. Thursday, close to 60. But of course, Thursday night actually brings us some rain and a following cold front that results in snow for Friday morning.
Well, coming up today at noon, we're making chocolate chip cheesecake bars in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Thank goodness you had to say that. I would have stumbled all over that.
A lot of
thing right
C's.
there. Your morning news continues on KOAM. CBS Mornings coming up next, as more than 1.5 million refugees from Ukraine have crossed into neighboring countries in just 10 days, sparking the fastest growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And this morning, the Quapaw Nation gets to flex its law enforcement muscle in ways it hasn't been able to before.
Plus, Lindsay Stevenson from the Missouri Extension Office with us in Studio K, talking about not only Live Well Month, it's more than that, it's a Live Well movement. So please join us over on Fox 14. Wraps it up for this Monday edition. Stay warm. Of course, do me a favor, be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.